Turkey still refuses to lift its veto on Sweden joining NATO after Stockholm's Supreme Court blocked the extradition of a journalist Ankara accuses of terrorism.
The lawyers of the Greek MEP Eva Kaili, caught up in the Qatargate corruption scandal, ask a Belgian court to free her until a possible trial begins, but with an electronic tag.
Turkey is yet to lift its veto on Sweden's bid for NATO membership. Sweden's Supreme Court provoked Turkish anger by blocking the extradition on Monday of a journalist Ankara implicates in a failed 2016 coup attempt.
If we are to be NATO allies, we need to see concrete cooperation in the fight against terrorism. But our talks continue in a constructive way. The recent rejection of the extradition decision of Kenes has unfortunately seriously poisoned this atmosphere.
His Swedish counterpart said that constitutional changes will make it easier to prosecute terrorist activities starting in January.
I would like to underline that, as I stated, we take our commitments seriously. Sweden has an independent judiciary, and all cases are reviewed through that independent judiciary.
Sweden and Finland broke with decades of military non-alignment and applied to join the US-led defense alliance in response to Russia's February invasion of Ukraine. Turkey and Hungary are the only NATO members yet to ratify the Nordic neighbors' applications. Turkey has held up the process while pressing the two countries to crack down on groups it considers to be terrorist organizations such as Kurdish militants.
The Kremlin intensified its information operation, accusing NATO expansion of presenting a military threat to Russia. Russian defense minister stated that NATO's military expansion near Russian borders, including Finland's and Sweden's NATO membership aspirations, necessitates an appropriate Russian response to establish a Russian force group in northwestern Russia and to significantly increase the size of the Russian military. He proposed to boost the size of the armed forces by more than 30% to 1.5 million servicemen. This was required to guarantee the solving of problems related to Russia's military security, the minister said. This is not the first time, even this year alone. This summer, just 3 months ago, Vladimir Putin had signed a decree ordering troops numbers to be increased by 137,000 from the 1st of January 2023 to reach the 1.15 million level, and has also drafted more than 300,000 reservists in a controversial mobilization drive to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Institute for the Study of War says Russia's net training capacity has likely decreased since the 24th of February, in part because the Kremlin deployed training elements to participate in combat in Ukraine, and these training elements reportedly took casualties. And that is why the armed forces of Belarus have likely recently taken on a significant but rather discreet role in training thousands of newly mobilized Russian reservists, says the UK Defense Ministry, calling it a role reversal. Belarus forces have traditionally been considered by Russia as inferior to Russian forces, and their employment as trainers is an indication of overstretch within the Russian military system. But the Institute for the Study of War assesses that the Kremlin is very unlikely to form such a large conventional force in a timeline that is relevant for Russia's war in Ukraine.
An estimated 1,500 Kosovan Serbs have demonstrated in the north of the country against what they claim is the partisan rule of Prime Minister Albin Kurti. The peaceful protest was over alleged discriminatory policing and arbitrary arrests, which they say are creating a climate of terror for ethnic Serbs in Kosovo. Our demands to the international community are very clear, said Dalibor Jevtic, former Minister for Communities in the government of Kosovo. It must stop Kurti from the violence he's perpetrating. The Kosovo government accuses Serb nationalists of stoking up tensions. On Sunday, nationalists from Serbia sought to force their way across the border. Belgrade has asked for its forces to be allowed to protect the Kosovan Serb community.
For increased cooperation.
Eva Kaili, the Greek MEP caught up in the Qatargate corruption scandal, should be freed, but with restrictions until a possible trial begins. That's what the lawyer of the former European Parliament Vice President is asking of a Belgian judge, saying an electronic tag should be used to monitor her movements.
We have requested that Ms. Kaili be placed under an electronic surveillance regime with a bracelet. She is actively participating in the investigation and she is contesting any corruption on her part.
Kaili appeared before a court in Brussels on Thursday for a hearing to determine whether she remains in jail or not before any trial begins. The Greek MEP is accused of corruption, money laundering and participation in a criminal organisation to promote the interests of foreign countries like Qatar in the European Parliament. Another lawyer of the Greek MEP maintains her innocence in the case, however.
I want to say to you that Ms. Eva Kaili is innocent and has never been corrupted. Never.
A decision isn't expected by the Belgian judge until late Thursday evening, as Kaili and her team likely wait anxiously for the outcome. Christopher Pitches, Euronews, Brussels.
This refugee center in Hungary has provided shelter to hundreds of families fleeing the war in Ukraine. Christina left Kiev during the bombing. She says staying in this hostel has brought her a little bit of peace of mind.
When you live in a war zone, you get used to certain things on some level. You accept them. But when you come to a safe place, you feel comfortable. You feel completely different. Because you can plan your week, your month in advance, and it's not normal that in Ukraine, people can't even plan for the next hour.
Через тиждень, через місяць. А зараз в Україні це неможливо, бо люди не знають, що з ними буде наступної години.
But Budapest's biggest refugee center, Madridi Street Shelter, completely run by volunteers, is currently facing a crisis. Donations have dwindled, and the hostel looks like it will only stay open until mid-January.
More and more people are coming over here. There's no heating, no electricity, no work in Ukraine. So those who are coming now face a huge challenge. I think the biggest challenge of their lives. And we really, really want to continue our work and operate our facility at least until the end of winter.
12-year-old Nikita fled Ukraine with his mother, who was unemployed and scared she wouldn't be able to make ends meet. He says he's very grateful to have found some stability in life.
I feel safe and good. I have friends here, internet, something to eat. And the main thing is that I feel safe. There are no warplanes and rockets above us, no gunshots. That's what matters most.
According to the organization, the inflation as well as the energy crisis has strongly impacted people's ability to donate to the shelter. If the contributions don't start pouring in, the NGO will have to close the facility.
Baby Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and her husband Joseph. 100 different variations of this iconic scene are now sprawled across St. Peter's Square. While the display is an annual event, this year's exhibit hopes to send a sign of peace and hope for the people of Ukraine.
The Nativity is a sign of peace, and all of us, looking all the nativities that are present, are called to be instrument of peace.
The nativity scenes come from around the world, including countries such as Hungary, Slovakia, Slovenia, Taiwan, Congo, and of course, Ukraine. One of the cribs, for example, shows Jesus in a structure reminiscent of the Azovstal steelworks factory in Mariupol. It sits next to a wooden nativity scene brought from a church in Kyiv. And sitting at the entrance of the exhibit is a Christmas tree decorated with 440 white cloth angels, each one representing a Ukrainian child that has died since the start of the war. Other nativity scenes reflect on themes such as climate change and migration across the Mediterranean. The exhibit, 100 Nativity Scenes in the Vatican, will remain in St. Peter's Square until January 8th.